And so as I've spent all these years in my business and growing the exact business I want, the business that allows me to, I just have to say, this is hilarious because you can't actually, here's a sidebar, is, there's a joke about all the entrepreneurs being ADD or ADHD and they can't stay focused. And that joke about squirrel, well, literally right now, next to the camera, next to the monitor, I've got two big doors, huge windows, and there's literally a squirrel running around right outside there. So there you have it. Where was I?
Squirrel Cam. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that before. We've had something called the Squirrel Cam in the past. And if you're wondering what that is, maybe you could talk about it for a second, but that was a fun thing that came out of previous masterclasses.
So we've had a Squirrel Cam a number of years because when I do these live broadcasts, they are live. And I'm in the secret headquarters, just the way the normal set that we use. When I'm looking at the camera, right next to the camera is a big door, with a couple of French doors, with the big windows, and it looks out on our deck. One time we're doing this live, and there was a squirrel just playing and playing and playing. And I'm trying to look at the camera, but just to the left of the camera is this squirrel playing around. And it just, it's that old joke about entrepreneurs and seeing squirrel, 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 and having a hard time staying focused. And this was me with a real live, literal squirrel right, in my vision right next to the camera. And so we ended up I ended up just saying, hey folks, if I seem distracted, it's because there's a squirrel playing literally right next to the camera. And sure enough, then Dan hooked up a squirrel camera so that people could see the squirrel playing while we were doing the broadcast.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. We put a little effect over it, so it had a little blinking red light. It kind of looked like security cam footage, and it was Squirrel Cam across the bottom of the screen. But I think that's such a lesson, though. There's stuff that's happening live, and so instead of Jeff just trying to ignore it or just calls it out, this is something that we see so many of the best do is they lean into whatever's happening in the moment. So if you have a squirrel dancing there, just make it part of the story, right? Just saying, hey, there's a squirrel there. It's kind of distracting me. Everyone has a good little laugh. And then Jeff can go on with doing his stuff. And then the next one, we put the Squirrel Cam in there. And then we kept going back to the Squirrel Cam. And it's funny because we actually haven't really had the Squirrel Cam for a couple years, but every single masterclass, we get comments still where people are like, where are the squirrels? How are the squirrels doing? And we've switched it up a little bit. There was a couple years ago where I had a brand new little kitten. And so she was playing around in the studio, while we were doing this. Her name's Nug. So we hooked up the Nug Cam and so it's just a lesson, right? Play into what's going on and have fun with it, right?
Tune in to see who the mascot is for this year's Launch Masterclass. We're going to find out, right?
We're going to find out too, and it usually just reveals itself to us. It's not usually a plan.
When I think of our brand and who we are as a company, I think what's built this company is just the results that our clients have gotten over the years. And we have people that have they show up every single year for this masterclass. People that are our superstar students that are doing launches of 6 figures and even 7 figures, and they show up. And I think that's what's built our business over the years. Well, I know that's what's built our business, but we also have a core tenet. We like to have fun. I mean, this is a business that I created. Now my team and I have created. And, if you're going to create something, why, my thinking at least, is why not have some fun while you're doing it? So if we can do that with a Squirrel Cam and maybe help keep them engaged, because we're occasionally showing them a squirrel and they get to see me having to work with situations that come up live because we are live, then so much the better.
Yeah, and I think that's something that it feels so much more authentic too, right? And it's something that I think we really lean into, even to the extent that we're teaching people how to launch, and we're doing it by doing a launch. And that's something we 100% lean into. And that's something that, if you're listening to this right now, I would 100%, that's some of the best learning out of the Launch Masterclass, honestly, is coming in and watching how the launch master, the launch OG himself is putting together a launch. And that's something that we'll talk about during the launch. We'll say, Jeff will say, hey, I'm in the middle of a launch. This is my launch. So while you're learning how to launch, you can also kind of take a step back to more meta level and watch how I'm actually doing it. there's nothing that's being hidden. There's no slick shine with the man behind the curtain controlling everything here. It really is just like trying to be as transparent as possible, saying, hey, we have something really cool. We're really excited to share it with you. And hey, get as much value as you can out of every aspect of it as you can.
We're probably pretty far down the road. We're probably fairly expert. Well, we're not. Oh, we got a squirrel. We have a squirrel, a little chipmunk. He just went behind the plants. You got him? I can't tell you how excited my team is. They worked so hard on getting this Squirrel Cam up. And can you see? You got his tail? We have the Squirrel Cam is working. My whole team over here is giggling. They can barely contain themselves because they worked so long on the Squirrel Cam. And yeah. Actually, I can go and pick that camera up and move it around, can I? Yeah. Oh, we can. Or you can. Well, actually, I think he ducked around. He's in the planter? Okay. Okay, I just need a few more seconds before I can think about what I was talking about before we went to the Squirrel Cam.